Welcome to Inside the GMAT. I'm your host, Zach. Today's episode is all about the parts of the MBA journey that don't always show up in the rankings or the salary reports, but they are the things that might just change your life the most. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined again by previous podcast guest, Melody Jones, founder and president of Vantage MBA Admissions Consulting. If you've been a pod listener recently, you might remember Melody from our conversation last season about the dead zone period between program acceptance and the first day of class. So you already know that she brings a wealth of insight from working with MBA applicants for many years and has a real passion for helping people discover their potential. Melody, welcome back to the show.
Wow, Zach, thank you for such a wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited.
So today we're going to go beyond job offers and pay bumps, and we're talking about confidence, community, clarity, these 3 C's, these parts of the MBA experience that don't show up on a resume, but I think are some of the most valuable. Melody, you and I have talked a little bit about this off camera, off microphone, because we really relate to this in our own business school journeys. So let's just start with this big question. Melody, what's missing from that usual return on investment conversation around the MBA?
What I would really say is missing is the more intangible sort of benefits and outcomes that come out of pursuing a graduate business education that goes way beyond academics and ultimately the job that you land. The way that I sort of think about the ROI that I got on my MBA, and this is how I always encourage my clients to look at it, is to think about it in terms of what is the quality of life that you're buying into and that you are securing for yourself in the future by pursuing this degree. And by that, I mean, is it opening up doors to a job that otherwise you would not have access to or would be extremely, extremely difficult for you to pursue? Is it enabling you to pivot away from something that doesn't light you up to something that does light you up? And it's impossible to put a price tag on that. I think the option value is huge, right? Like what I love about the MBA is it is the most versatile of all of the master's level degrees you can pursue. And that means that it can enable you to kind of reinvent yourself and pursue many different chapters in your career over and over again, because it opens those doors and it gives you those transferable skills that can be applicable in so many different scenarios and situations. And as we've all seen, right, the economy is unpredictable. What's happening in the world more broadly is unpredictable, and having that option value just gives you that extra confidence and certainty that no matter what comes, you're going to be okay and you'll be able to land on your feet. And maybe the last piece I'll just touch on too is you said earlier, kind of in the 3 C's, is the personal development component. Some MBA programs focus on this more than others, but no matter where you go to business school, if it's a top program, you're going to have some focus on leadership development, right? Getting feedback from your peers, feedback from coaches, time to introspect and get to know yourself better. Going through challenging experiences with learning teammates, recruiting disappointments, you name it, right? All of these experiences just give you a more robust perspective and give you the foundation to go back out into the world with more clarity, more confidence, and ultimately better sense of self and a better ability to relate to a broad range of people.
What aspects of the MBA can really help boost these human skills or these soft skills? So let's start with confidence. What can you say confidently?
Confidently. I think it's actually, I'm going to borrow something I read recently from, I think it was Alex Hermosi that actually posted this on Instagram. And it was just talking about how, confidence doesn't come from within. Confidence comes from experience, from doing it over and over again and getting really good at it. While I don't necessarily agree that it doesn't come from within, what I think the point he was making that I really appreciated is that confidence does come from experiencing hard things and coming out the other side ahead. Or at least coming out the other side with a really great lesson that you can then apply to maybe react or act differently in the future. And I think business school is really good at putting you in sort of lower risk situations where you still gain those skills, gain that perspective, and experience difficult moments and are able to learn from them and then apply those to making you a better leader, a better business person, the way you want to develop personally to ultimately be the leader and lead the career that you envision and the life that you envision, really.
I know that in some programs, in all programs of all different types, there's really strong personalities and people who have no problem talking about themselves. But I'm actually not one of those people. I have a lot of hesitation when I talk about the things that I do or trying to, quote unquote, sell myself. And I feel like going to business school really allowed me to understand myself in a really different way. So I think that when I think
Yeah,
about confidence, I immediately think of like learning how to pitch myself,
right.
in not just in an interview, but even in meeting people. Like I know that maybe
Yeah.
that sounds really silly, but I feel like I got the confidence to be more outgoing.
Yeah, and also I think for a lot of folks, it's also just the confidence to raise their hand and believe that their point of view has merit and has worth, right? And that's one thing that I really love about the case method, which is kind of the flagship academic model at Harvard Business School, is that all students will be cold called upon at some point within their experience at HBS, and probably more than once. And beyond that, the value that you bring is your differentiated perspective. And it's okay that not everyone agrees with you. It's not personal, but it's about raising your hand or expressing a point of view if called upon, and then being able to defend that. And I think doing that over and over again in that environment, while it can sound really intimidating and really scary, and maybe you never fully get over the fear, but ultimately it does give you more comfort with it and sort of builds it like a muscle. And that's a muscle that you can continue to bring out into the world, to your point, into perpetuity, really.
You mentioned comparing yourself to other classmates, and I think that really ties into another crucial skill that you learn in business school, which is communication skills. And I think that there's so much communication with other classmates in business programs, from group projects or giving feedback and just overall relationship building. I mean, I think about when I go on like an MBA subreddit, which is one of the two subreddits I'm addicted to. A lot of people ask like, this is my personality. Do you think I will fit in at X school? Which I think is a really interesting question. I think it's a very honest and sort of brave question to put out there on the internet for sure.
Yeah.
But I think communication relates to that.
Absolutely. I think there's a difference between personality, right, and maybe character traits or behaviors that you recognize you might want to work on or get better at or do less of, right, as part of sort of the leadership and personal development that happens in business school. So I think, personality is definitely one of those things that, there's plenty of room for all types of personalities in business school.
Sure.
So I don't think it's only right for one person or another. But what you do need to come into the experience with is a willingness to grow, and to maybe take a deeper look at the parts of yourself that might not be as pretty, and might be getting in the way of you communicating with others better or relating to others better. And generally being able to sort of connect with others in a way that a leader needs to in order to be effective. One thing that I loved about my business school experience, and I think you'll hear this over and over and over again from any MBA grad that you speak to, was the diversity of the classmates that I became, not just that I met, that I became truly friends with. And I think one sort of eye-opening moment for me was just how much I have in common with people who otherwise kind of on the surface, right, don't seem like we have anything in common. We don't share, the mother language, our mother tongue, our language, culture, like professional interests, right? Like all the things that kind of typically bind people together. But ultimately we had other things in common, right? Whether it was a vision for the future or values or, a mutual love of wine tasting. It can be all these different things, but I think realizing that we all have a lot more in common as humans is a really important sort of reminder as you move up in your career and take on greater leadership positions, because it's easy to sort of view people as like, oh, well, he's just this way, or, oh, well, she's just like that, or, oh, she's not a good fit, right? It's easy to say that, or you can take the time to really get to know people at a human level and really understand what makes them tick, and how to motivate them, and ultimately find that there might be a lot more common ground there than it seems. And I think business school does a really good job of sort of laying that foundation and opening your mind to that possibility.
Yeah, totally. And I know we're talking about sort of these intangible or secret benefits of getting an MBA, going to business school, not necessarily talking about how to get a job, but don't all of these skills actually help you get a job?
Absolutely. And more importantly, they don't only help you get the job, they also help you kick butt once you're there. Right? And help you help you thrive once you've sort of stepped into the shoes that you were brought in to fill. And I think, that's why you even see within organizations that might even hire MBAs at more junior levels, you see the folks with MBAs, for the most part, rising up faster than their peers without MBAs. That's not just because management is addicted to seeing the fancy MBA program on their resume. It's because that person is actually performing at a higher level and is earning those promotions because they're able to not only be good at whatever their business is or their trade, but stepping into the shoes of a leader. And that is an entirely different skill set.
Is networking more than just finding and securing a job or internship?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. And I just want to throw it out there that I am probably someone who hates networking the most, or hates that term, because it feels transactional and it feels like, what can I get from you that's going to help me get to where I want to go, right? It feels very ick. And I think the way that I kind of learned to reframe it in my own mind and sort of in how I practiced and approached what everyone else will call networking is really just based on relationship building, because that's really what it is, right? It's about meeting folks, understanding what you have in common, understanding what they're about, what you're about. Is there common ground here? Can we help each other? Can you help me? Can I help you? And one sort of practice that I sort of learned in business school that I've continued to carry out in my life is to offer to be of service first. And that way, when I need something, right, then I don't necessarily feel like I'm going out there asking for favors, that there's already been sort of this exchange of value and we've created rapport that way. Everyone's going to be different in that regard, but I do think, business school forces you to face networking, like it or not. And it's super important, particularly in the job search process. So you just have to find a way to sort of make you comfortable doing it. And do it in a way that's authentic. But yeah, there's unfortunately no way around it. And if you're doing it the right way, if you're doing it in an authentic way, it'll feel good.
What do you think it means to network authentically?
I think it means to do it in a way that's true to yourself. So for me, as someone who doesn't feel comfortable sort of just going right in there and saying, okay, I know I met you 5 minutes ago, but can you please slide your resume onto your boss's desk, slide my resume onto your boss's desk so that they can have a look because I really want a job, for example. Some people might be comfortable with that, right? And that's okay. And that's authentic for them. For me, that's not how I operate. So for me, it was more stepping stones, like, hey, I'm really interested in learning more about your company. Maybe we can grab coffee next time I'm in the city, for example, and then sort of move the conversation along from there. And ideally, then we'll get to a place where they sort of understand what I'm looking for, I understand what they're looking for, and it's something that makes sense for one of us to offer to the other person. That's personally how I like to operate, but that took me sort of getting to know my comfort level and also trusting my instincts. And that just came through reps, right? Like in business school, you're always thrown in these situations and you just have to get comfortable with it. It's sink or swim. And to your point, you can look around and learn from your peers who might be also doing it better or doing it in a way that you're like, you know what? I will never do that. And that's a great lesson too.
So also when it comes to networking, can you talk a little bit about how you see the value of the actual network, as in the
Right.
cohort, or even in some cases, the professors or any clients that you work with while in a program?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. And that's a really great point, right? Because when we think about networking, it's typically within the context of finding a job, right? And that's a big part of your business school experience. But the far more important network that you're building is the one that you're building with your classmates. And to some extent, like you said, possibly professors and other folks who were a part of your MBA journey. But your classmates are by far and away the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to pursuing an MBA. And that goes far beyond just friendship, right? I mean, friendship is a beautiful gift that comes out of business school. And those relationships and that experience you share together will continue to carry you through life. But, but beyond that, I think, being a part of a broader group that is inspiring you with all of the amazing things that they're doing in their lives and their careers. I mean, I am amazed at what some of my classmates have accomplished in terms of buying companies, selling companies, starting companies. It's amazing what they've been able to accomplish. And I'm, 12 years out of graduation now. So put another 10 years on that, and it's just going to be even more incredible. But beyond that, these are the folks that are going to be your greatest advocates when you are looking to change jobs or change companies. These are folks that will, schedule a call across time zones to hop on the phone with you and give you a crash course on a new sector because you're presenting to the investment committee tomorrow and you need to be able to speak to something that you just can't find good enough information on out there in the internet or through your sources. Those will be the folks that will sort of help you practice or rehearse your pitch for that big job interview when you're being promoted to CFO or what have you. So these really are the people that are going to be your greatest sort of cheerleaders and partners throughout your entire professional journey. And, the saying goes, like, your network is your net worth. I mean, that is absolutely true. The opportunities that you come across and how you are top of mind for someone when they're looking to bring on a new partner or hire on someone in their team. Again, that comes from the relationships you build in business school and continuing to maintain those along the way. I definitely tapped into the network tremendously when I was trying to get this company off the ground. Just, anything from like, geez, how do I build a website? To larger questions like, how do I think about scaling? These are questions that, yes, you can, bounce ideas off into the little echo chamber in your brain, but speaking to folks that might have different perspectives and relevant experience that they can speak to just helps give you more information to consider and helps you ultimately make better and more informed decisions.
In your opinion, do you think that the network is worth the ROI?
Alone? Yeah.
Alone, yeah.
Hands down. Hands down. It's, again, I'm so proud of all of my classmates and to be a part of this community and to be one of them, frankly. It's incredible. And just the push and the inspiration to continue to work hard and dream bigger, aim higher. You can't put a price on that.
I have a tough question for you.
I love a tough question.
I could tell that you totally meant it, that the network is worth the return on investment of an MBA. Do you think it's worth the investment on an MBA that's not at a top school?
No. Now, I will say this. I don't think that an MBA from a non-top school is totally worthless because there are folks who are coming from zero business background, right? Like don't know what a balance sheet is, right? And that's okay. That's okay. And for folks that come from that background, the academic rigor of, a program like Harvard, for example, that moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour is not going to be an environment in which they will thrive, right? They will drown. And so I think there is a place for folks that come from particularly non-business background who still need to gain that business foundation in order to make the next step in their career. So whether it's to move into maybe a management role within sort of the path or the technical role that they have now, but they need to sort of build up that business acumen so that they can better speak to their managers and better speak to the sort of parts of their role that they're held accountable for. So I think in that context, it's worth it. I also think, for folks who maybe are working in a regional office for a company and they want to stay there, or they're working in a family business even, and just are really there to sort of gain the skills and the knowledge, I think there's a place for programs that give that, and they're certainly much cheaper. But if you're really looking to sort of upgrade, if you will, then I think that a top MBA is kind of the only way to do that.
Melanie, what would you say to somebody who's really worried about the financial implications of spending, up to $250,000 on this degree?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a really important question, right? And that's where these sort of ROI calculations come in. And, folks who are very rightfully so concerned and aware of the financial implications of their decision, I would say that they should absolutely keep those in mind. I recognize that individual circumstances are different. There are obviously different funding opportunities for an MBA, particularly if you're flexible on school choice. So that's one side of things. And the other side of things is there's no one size fits all here. The right decision for you might not be the right decision for the next person. But I think ultimately, as you do think about the ROI and the value of getting an MBA, my sort of whole overarching piece of advice here is don't only look at the financial numbers, but also look at the big picture and look about all these other intangible aspects that we talked about today, and really view this as a holistic experience in every sense of the word, and decide if this is something that is going to be additive to your life financially and otherwise. But, I think the big takeaway for me, for everyone who's listening, is that an MBA is really more than an academic degree. And I think it really is in a league of its own, even when you compare sort of other high-level master's degrees, like a law degree or med school even. Business school is a holistic growth experience that can truly change your life, open doors, give you the option value we talked about, give you confidence to walk into rooms that you otherwise might have shrunk away from. Everything that we talked about today is the benefit you can expect from this degree. And so make sure that as you think about whether or not this is the right choice for you, you are really understanding what you're getting into, and then it really does go beyond what you learn in the classroom or what that job outcome is.
Is this something that you would talk to somebody about in the first stages of working with them at Vantage Point?
So typically when folks start working with us, they are already bought into wanting the degree. And so it's less of a sell on whether or not this is right for them, but it is absolutely a deep conversation we have around why MBA beyond maybe the initial push that got them to that decision. Right. So if someone's like, I'm really unhappy in my job, or I really want to go work in this industry and I need an MBA to do it, right? That's what kind of pushes them into the process. But then what we spend a lot of time talking to our clients about is really understanding what the MBA experience is all about and how they're going to benefit from it on so many levels beyond just the surface level ones, like getting a job or learning about how to build a financial model because you haven't done that before. And so that's really what the value is of engaging our team, is really helping get much more clarity on what the MBA is going to provide you and how it's going to advance your career, not just immediately after business school, but into the decades after graduation.
Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you?
I'd like to point everyone to our website. It's at www.vantagepointmba.com. You can learn all about our story on the website, our services, and if you want to speak with myself or a member of my team, we offer a free 30-minute consultation. You just click the request consultation button that is literally everywhere on the website, and we'll book a call on their calendar.
Nice. Well, Melody, thank you so much for joining me again on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Zach. It's been a pleasure. Looking forward to coming back again.
Yes, definitely. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, share it with someone who's considering an MBA. And remember that I am Zach at GMAT, and I have all the human skills. And this has been Inside the GMAT. Until next time.